Ryan ending here today, and I've got a video for you related to Aloft dedicated servers. And the specific topic of this video will be how to set up a Cloudflare worker to receive the server room code on a daily basis. So, to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the cloudflare.com website. And what you'll need to do first is you'll have to create a free account, as I've done. And then once you're inside of that account, what you'll do is you'll come in the left pane down to where you see compute workers. So you'll expand that, and there's going to be a link called workers and pages. So you'll click that. That will bring you here. And you'll just need to click create. And we're going to hit create worker. And I'm going to go ahead and open the code from my other one that I already have working. So that's going to be here. And I'm going to take this code and copy it. We're going to throw this in a notepad file. So we're just going to overwrite this just so that I have something that I can copy and paste from. And what we'll do is we'll name our worker that we set up. So in this case, I'll call this Aloft test. And you can see that this controls the URL that's going to be what you're giving your friends or your people that are going to be joining your server. And of course, if you had your own URL or domain that you had purchased, you could relink that and have that redirect to here as well. But for this case, what we'll do is we'll just hit deploy. So this is going to actually set up the worker on the back end. And then we'll click edit code so that we can customize what we want our code to do. So we're going to let that load up here. So we'll click latest, make sure that we have the latest version of this worker. We'll paste in our code. And all we need to do then is hit deploy. So that says version saved. So what we'll do now is we'll go back to our dashboard here, and we're going to click down where it says storage and databases, and we're going to click KV. And what this does is this essentially it allows you to store a key pair value, which is essentially how we're storing the code from our local server code text file. So what I've done is I've created that KV code. It says Aloft join code test. And then we'll need to go back to the worker. So we're going to say workers and pages. And then we're going to click our new one here, which is Aloft test. We're going to click settings and go to bindings. And we're just going to add a binding for KV namespace. And the name of this needs to match what you have in the code for your worker. So in my case, it's join codes. And of course, you can just feel free to do a direct copy of the code that I'm doing. That way you don't have to rename your stuff. But if you want to, you certainly can. That's kind of why I'm showing you where all this code exists, just in case you wanted to make edits on your end. So we're going to say join codes, and you can see I've got it there in my saved info. And then we're going to choose the KV namespace, which in this case was the Aloft join code test. So we'll click deploy. And that's all we need for what we're doing for Cloudflare. So this is everything that's required on this end. So we'll go back here, and then we're just going to go visit the page. So you can see if we visit the page here and we refresh, so you can see this is where we had it working before. So the next thing that we need to do here is we actually in here, I'll show you the test exe that I made. So in this exe, the only thing that I've done here is I changed the worker URL to be the one that is my current one that I have working to the test one that we just created. So when I run that, what'll happen is it basically takes whatever that current code is, which in my case, if I close out of these files here and open this back up, you'll see that this code matches the code in the background there. So that is kind of what we're after. So in order to make these exes, we're going to use a program called ps2exe. So we're going to go into the temp folder here, and all we're going to do is we're going to go to the start menu here. In my case, this is on my server. So I'm recording from my primary computer, but this is through TeamViewer on my server. And this is just to make sure that I can get to the files correctly as I need to. So once in here, all we need to do is go to the node GUI load PowerShell file, and we're going to do copy as path. And then what you'll do is on your end, you'll do install-module ps2exe. And you hit enter, and you'll get a pop-up here in PowerShell, and it'll say something to the effect of giving you like the terms of service of using ps2exe, and you'll have the option to accept the TOS essentially by pressing A. So once you do that, all you need to do in here is you just need to type ps2exe, do a space, and then paste in the path to your PowerShell file, and then another space, and then what you want the exe that you're making to be called. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll say load test.exe, and you'll see we get that exe here. So this exe would be the one that you run to actually start your server. So we're going to go ahead and leave that one alone. And then this other one is the code that sends the server code out to Cloudflare. So you'll see you just have the path to your code file. So in my case, that's on my iDrive here. So that's going to be unique to wherever you've got your Steam CMD set up for your Aloft dedicated server. And then the worker URL is going to be unique to you. That's going to be the URL that we saw when we were setting up the worker. And then the rest of the code will be the same here. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to come back to PowerShell, and then we're just going to do the same thing. So we're going to right click, copy as path. And then we're going to come here, and then we're going to do ps2exe, and we're going to paste it in, and then we're going to paste it in again, and then I'll just change the name here, exe. There we are. So we've got the EXEs now, and then these EXEs will end up being run by the batch files that you end up making here. So, obviously pay attention to the fact that like your EXEs will have a different name, and you'll need to update those in order to get these working correctly. But it's just to kind of show you sort of what we're looking at. So in this case, this batch file triggers the server to load. And it also starts a watchdog service, which basically it's just another window that kind of listens for the server crashing. And in my case, if the server crashes, it just restarts the system. And I have services set up, which I'll show you in a second, which basically handle restarting the service and resending the code out to Cloudflare. So the second batch file, this basically launches PowerShell, and then it just launches that exe. And then with that, we can come down and go to Task Scheduler. So we've got that here. And then I've also got a tool which I used in this process called Auto Logon. And this is something that you can Google, but I'll have a link for it in the description of the video just to make it easy for you to find. And what you'll do with this once you open it is you'll launch the Auto Logon exe. And when you do that, you basically will give it the username, the domain, which is the name of your computer, and then your password. And all this does when you hit enable is it just makes it to where your computer will now log on automatically whenever it restarts. So that just kind of helps these run the way that you'd expect, and it also makes it possible to where you have the actual server GUI pop up when things load. So in order to set this up on the server side, I've got one service which restarts the Aloft server here, and then I've got another one which sends the server code. So they're both set up to run at the logon of that user. So you set run only when the user is logged on with the highest privileges, and the trigger is the logon. And in this case, I have it delayed for 1 minute after that logon happens. And the action is just the batch file that we looked at a second ago running in the directory here. So you can see like the directory is basically just the same thing as the path for the batch file, just minus the name of the batch file. And that's all that you need for this. And then the server code I have delayed by a few extra minutes just to allow the server time to start up. So you could set this for anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes. But I found that having this delayed by 3 minutes seemed to work pretty well for me. Like it made it to where basically the code goes out almost as soon as the server comes up. But you could, make that time gap a little bit bigger just in case it takes a little bit longer for your server to start up. So maybe perhaps 1 minute and 5 minutes respectively. And then same for the action, it's just the batch file, and the location is the directory that it sits in. So once we do all that, what will happen is you'll be able to come to your exe that you made, and with those services, that will handle these running. So the first one would basically be that you would test your stuff running, and that would load your server. So I'll show you that in a second, and then you would click this other one here to send out the new code. So what we'll do is I'll actually won't kill the server, because if I killed the server, it would restart my computer. But what will happen when you click that, the service will start. You'll see that your server will come up and the watchdog window will come up. And then whenever you click this, you'll see it flash code updated there. And then you'd be able to come to your URL here, and then you would see the code here, which again will be intended to match the code here in the server room code. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And again, I'd recommend having the GitHub that I'll have up. I'll have that project with all of this code available to you to make it as easy as I can. But I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any problems. Thank you and have a great day.